4 time eventually. Thank you, Rafe. That's hilarious. All right, joining us now. Let me put a second in here so I don't saddle this poor House of Representatives. He's a senator, right?
Yeah, he is a senator. We'll play him on with his music, and that should give you some distance.
Senators are House of Representative members with better hair.
Nicer
All
ties.
right, let's go back. Joining us now, Rand Paul. What's shaking, Rand?
Hey, Dennis. Good to be with you.
Nice to talk to you. Let's talk about immigration, and we'll go back in at the end. I assume you're as shattered as most Americans on Boston, and also probably as incensed as this goofball article about let's hope the Boston Marathon is a white American, but I don't want to give that idiot the lead. Let's go down. Let's talk immigration. Where do we stand right now? I read this morning, did I see that there's 38 members of the Senate who are for it at this point? Or, well, you tell me. You're there. You're the senator.
Well, we have sort of a policy around here that's kind of unusual, but we choose to read the bills before we make a decision.
Yes.
So we're actually reading it. It's about 1,000 pages, and we're making our way through it. And, we'll have 4 or 5 members reading it as well as myself, and we'll have to look at it. I'm like many conservatives that I can be for immigration reform, but there has to be a secure border, and that has to be part of this. So I have an amendment we call Trust But Verify, and it says that they have to meet certain parameters of border security, compile a report, but then the report has to be voted on by Congress each year for about 5 years in order for the reform to continue forward. And I think if you have that as a check and balance, you have a chance of forcing there to be increased border security. But the big complaint from '86 from conservatives was, well, we got normalization of these folks and we got them visas, but then we didn't secure the border. So my plan is to make sure that we secure the border as part of immigration reform. If that occurs and I'm satisfied with it, I want to be for immigration reform.
It's interesting. I saw a letter that Tom Brokaw had written to Politico, an email about how we are, in light of Boston, we are a first world nation, the richest nation. We face third world problems. And I often think to myself, guys, this all reverberates out from the initial pebble thrown into the pond. Our border is a sieve. We should lay down some sort of cosmic primal marker that it is not an armed camp, but it is difficult to come into the United States. That would be a good first step, I think.
One of the primary functions of the national government is, securing the nation. It's national defense, and part of national defense is not letting people wander into your country carrying grenade launchers or any other kind of weapons. And so border security is important, not just the economic ramifications of having a secure border, but really for keeping terrorists out and knowing who's coming and who's going.
Yeah. Every time I see the president speak about the American dream and how immigrants are just coming here to participate in it, fine. I like the whole Great Expectations thing, but he's always in somebody's backyard and there's a hedge behind him. And I go, pal, if the photo op dictates a hedge, can I get a hedge at least out at the border, for God's sakes? Would that be a nice first step? We're talking to Rand Paul. Now, listen, Rand, I got to tell you, you've been a mensch lately, baby. Good for you. I can see your old man's kid because he was always a mensch. I always liked his pragmatism. I didn't get some of it. I don't trust Islam as far as I can't throw it. But
you're a reformed comedian, so there's only so much we can get through to you, Dennis.
But I'm telling you, man, I admire the cut of your jib lately, baby. That Mr. Smith thing was cool. And going into Howard and making that foray was cool. And I really like the way, listen, man, you made a lot of points just because you're being a pragmatist and common sense and a working class hero about this. Good for you, brother.
We're going to keep trying. We have plans to continue talking about school choice. I think school choice is our entryway to be able to get some of the African-American folks to look at us for voting for Republicans, because the educational situation is abysmal in many cities and in many areas where African-Americans live, and the Democrats haven't been doing anything for education other than protecting the union. And I think we want to do stuff that's going to help the kids, let the money follow the kids, and let the kids choose where they want to go to school.
Yeah, every time I go to dislike Feinstein completely, I always think about her saying, hey, shouldn't we at least try vouchers in D.C.? You know what I mean? I do remember her at one point saying that and thinking, Yeah, what in God's name is this whole dictating to people that they never try to get the kids into a better school because that somehow works against education? It's creepy.
Well, I defy anybody to watch the movie Waiting for Superman and see the emotion on those parents' face and the tears of joy if they get into a school, or the tears of despair if they don't get into a choice school. So there's so many stories. Milwaukee's done this. DC's got this. There's some private stories of scholarships where successful people have gone in and given scholarship. There's so many great stories.
Beautiful stuff.
And then there's also the stories of the people languishing. And, we have 18 schools in Louisville that are failing and have a 40% high school graduation rate.
Jesus.
And that's inexcusable and unacceptable. The Democrats aren't doing anything for these schools, and Republicans want to come in and say, look, we're going to give you schools just like the schools you have in the suburbs.
Now, by the way, Rand, if you're ever out Vegas way and you're search to, whatever you want to call it at this point, but I think you're probably running, and you should go to Andre's place. Have you been to Andre Agassi's school in Vegas?
You mean to learn some tennis?
No, to learn how to run a school. Andre has set up a school out there.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
And if he was a great tennis player, can I tell you, this cat has done more for education. Go visit the Andre Agassi Academy when you're in Las Vegas. Spend 2 hours there, Rand. It blows your mind what Andre's done. It's absolutely freaking beautiful.
That's a great idea. We'll do that.
Yeah, I mean, and you'd love Andre, too, he tells you.
Yeah, I'm afraid I'll have to take him off the tennis court to the golf course to have any chance.
There you go. You can follow Senator Paul on Twitter at Senator Rand Paul. And kudos on the filibuster, baby. I was thinking the next day, where'd you go with a nice claret, a sucrete? What worked for you the next day as far as the pipes?
Well, my feet were sore for 2 weeks, to tell you the truth, from all that standing around. And it's not really that great an exercise. It's just standing in the same place, and you're not allowed to sit down. So it was if I would have known what I was doing, I would have worn better shoes.
You should have taken one of those little T-squares they sit on at Augusta when they're watching the tournament, baby. So you could have stood up and kind of been cheating a little back onto your derriere.
Well, they have someone in there the whole time watching you. Someone from the Democrats sits in there the whole time, which is the only consolation is they're forced to listen to 13 hours of you speaking.
Yeah.
But they watch. If you sit down, they take the floor.
Yeah, I know. It's the one Democrat in the room who's an ass watcher and not an ass kisser. Well, we've been talking to Rand Paul. He's going to run, and he's been doing a hell of a job. And in the interim, he can't say that, but I can say you've been a mensch, brother. I'm proud of you.
Thanks, Dennis.
We'll talk at you down the road. Nobody hangs up quicker than Rand Paul.
He had someone hang up for him. I think
hear that?
Ron hung up for him.
Jesus, that was tale as old as time.
Hasn't it?
Huh? Nobody's been... That gave me goosebumps. I want to eventually do tale as old as time as quickly as Rand Paul hangs up after a phone call. That's my goal in life on the Dennis Miller Show.
As old as time.
The Dennis Miller Show.